So this is the final part of the day. So hopefully you guys, if you haven't asked all the questions that you wanted to ask today, you can ask them now to our panel of experts who feel your pain and know what you're going through and have gone through it before and are still going through it and all of those good things. So let me go ahead and introduce the panel. On the end here is Ms. Tippy Tippins, the Chief Eternal Optimist of Goods That Matter. Let's see, Tippy was selected as one of Good Magazine's Good 100, as one of 100 incredible people moving the world forward through doing. Matter, the first B Corporation in Louisiana, is a design for good company committed to creating eco-friendly products in the U.S., 95% in New Orleans. That also gives back to our world's most pressing social and environmental needs. Goods That Matter has donated over $23,000 to date to innovative partner groups working on issues ranging from the 2010 BP oil spill cleanup, wetland restoration, education, disaster relief, literacy, and animal rescue. Okay, all right. Okay, sitting next to Tippy is Molly Babineau, the founder of Loomed, a lovely store in the Rink. Molly Babineau founded Loomed in 2012 and continues to manage the day-to-day operations of the growing textile company. Loomed imports hand-woven, GOTS certified organic cotton textiles for home and travel and distributes locally, regionally, and nationally. Loomed also produces custom textile collections and has worked with the Lake Restaurant Group, the Old 77 Hotel, and Revelator Coffee. Okay. And next to Molly is Angie Jackson, owner of Miette. In 2005, a fallen tree during Hurricane Katrina destroyed Angie and her partner's first business, a computer repair shop located on Magazine Street. Instead of rebuilding, they decided to make a fresh start, delving into the coffee business, founding Mojo Coffee House next door to their former business. After having an established business under her belt, Angie spent free time hosting craft parties in her home, and gradually this turned into a full-time business. In 2010, Miette was launched, providing a space dedicated to selling unique items and featuring a curated collection of handmade and local goods. Rotating over 100 local and displaced artists since opening, she scouts emerging makers and assists them with everything from sourcing high-quality materials to pricing and marketing. An advocate for shopping local, she finds value in being a liaison between the artisan and the consumer, making sure to communicate the importance of the handmade with a focus on celebrating local creative talent. And I'm sure you all hopefully you had a chance to sample the salad dressing, Hanley's. This is Richard Hanley, Jr., CEO and founder of Hanley's. In 2012, Richard quit his day job and worked on getting his sensation salad dressing into 50-plus grocery stores like Whole Foods, the Fresh Market, AG stores, and several stores around town. Now, Hanley's is in over 300 retail stores in the Gulf South and getting ready to go nationwide with their new plant-based, allergen-free ranch dressing. Wonderful. Richard is an avid runner, biker, reader, writer, father, and all-around food health nut that lives by his personal motto, do what's worth doing. Thank you for being here, Richard. Okay, next is Terracin Dupuis, inventor of Fuzzy Buns. Terracin is an inventor and entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience. She invented a modern version of a cloth baby diaper in 2000 called Fuzzy Buns, and built her own manufacturing and distribution facility. In 2012, Terracin appeared on the ABC TV show Shark Tank with her invention, and while she walked away investmentless, she went on to partner with another local investor and started a juvenile product licensing company called Infant C Trading Company, LLC. Terracin also mentors for the New Orleans-based business incubator Idea Village and has recently launched her own consulting business called Pitch Perfect Consulting, which provides guidance and coaching on the pitch process to entrepreneurs as well as helps them connect with investors. Thank you for being here, Terracin. And sitting next to me is Miss Bernadette Jofin. Okay. Bernadette Jofin is an award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, and natural product enthusiast. Pulling from her own personal struggles with eczema and dermatitis, Bernadette uses her background in biochemistry and knowledge of herbs and oils from her home in the Caribbean to create Seneca products. Seneca is a New Orleans-based brand that specializes in natural skin and hair products with a focus on solutions for eczema, dry hair, and skin. She strives to continue to create products that enhance beauty as well as promote natural wellness and an appreciation of our natural selves, which is reflected in the company's motto, Natural, Beautiful, You. So thank you all for being here. All right. Okay, just a brief survey from the audience. Have you guys, okay, let's hear an applause if you have had some successes with your business so far, your business or your products. Applause, please. Okay. Stresses or failures, can I get some boos? Okay. Okay. So a general consensus is with launching a new business, there are gripes and glows, and I hope we can dive right into those so I can stop talking. Okay, so let's go ahead and just start off the discussion today with if you could give just one piece of advice to a maker that's new to wholesale, what would it be? What would it be? Who would like to take that?
I'll give it a stab.
And just pass it on to whoever feels inspired.
One piece of advice I would say is to simply be a friend with the buyer that's going to be receiving your product. Before I quit the day job and went off on this wild roller coaster of this food business, while I was on my lunch break, would sit down and talk to a grocery store owner. I would say, hey, look, I'm working on this thing. I'm a local guy. Is our barcodes really that important? Our nutritional facts are important? Like, what do you look for in order to bring a new product in? What's like your price point, that kind of thing? And just over months of these kind of conversations with the store's owner, I was able to figure out the process of how I can go from my thing to it being a reality in a very short period of time. And then one day I walked up to them and I was eating lunch there because they had a little deli. And I was, hey, yeah, by the way, I have that thing. It's ready now. You want to buy it? Like, sure, yeah, why not? You've already gone through this checklist. You have everything we need. And it's there ready to go. And that was my first customer. Number one was that person that I just became a friend with. That's one piece of advice I can give, is to try to be a friend to your first buyer.
Okay, so I guess I'll say something. I heard it talked about earlier today was your pricing strategy. I'm a little fanatical about that. If you've been selling retail or direct to consumer initially and you want to make that switch to wholesale, making sure that your margins are there before you make that jump. I know people that have lost their entire businesses because they have gone from direct to consumer to boutique type wholesale, and then they get a large account and their margins are completely non-existent and they can't function. So that would be my piece of advice, and I think it's good to start thinking about it now. Even if you've not been in business or have not sold wholesale before, think about it now before you get there, because you never know where you might be. You might start off selling direct to consumer and wind up in a Target. So, and you can't really change your retail prices once you launch, so be mindful.
Can I add to that? So for the pricing then, that was something that was a big learning for me in the beginning. So for that wholesale pricing then, just to let everyone know, it's typically your cost of goods sold times 2 or 3 to get your wholesale price, and then you double it for the retail.
And then I like to factor in too, there's distribution costs too for that. And that's one thing I learned, is that everyone wants a piece of the pie. There's brokers who sell the products, there's distributors who move the products, and there's the retailers who buy the products. I mean, that's one half the battle. The other edge of the sword is to get it off the shelf, in which we saw a lot of things and ways to do that. But there's a lot of margins that kind of go into from the cost to make to the cost to sell.
Mine would be to offer fewer products it's along with what Layla Barker was saying this morning. When we started, we had like, I don't know, just so many different things. And our thinking was, if we have all the options, wholesalers will buy from us because we have something for everybody. But that's not really how they shop. They want fewer choices. So fewer products. And that was mine.
I agree.
What I would add to it is that to be on top of your pricing, if you're not good with math, Leela has, I'm okay with math. I majored in biochemistry, so I should be fine. But Leela has this software called Price-O-Matic. I think it's about like $1.99. It's really good. Her husband is a developer, and it helps you not only look at your cost of goods sold, but look at other consumable items like gloves or hairnets, or I don't know what that is, but those things that you're paying for to make your product that may not be sold with your finished product. Also looking at things like income taxes. If you're paying someone, you have to pay taxes on that, even if you're not paying them now. And she also has some really good videos that come along with that look at the rate that you're paying someone. So if you're making it now and your ideal rate is $50 an hour, when you hire someone, the reasonable rate for that, or the going rate for that, it may be a $12 an hour job or a $10 an hour job to pay someone to wash the dishes, or to stitch the hem on a dress, or to print a t-shirt. So just be mindful that it's more than just what you're paying for the materials. You have to think about all of the other things that go along with that.
Angie, what is the most challenging part of working with artists and makers?
That they haven't had this class yet. A lot of artists that I work with are just starting off, so I'm actually in a kind of different league than everybody else in here in a way. I get people when they're first starting, like it's usually their first necklace that they've made, and they're like, do you like this? Could I make more of this? And I'm like, yeah, let's go with this. So I work with artists and find branding, line sheets, and to get to here.
Okay.
So that's the most challenging part.
That's the most challenging.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to piggyback on that, Molly? Because I know you work with sourcers. You source internationally. So do you have, is there anything that you would, could advise like artists or artisans who have something special you want to do?
Well, I work with hand weavers in Turkey, so there's some interesting things that go along with that. In a dream world, what I wish they would have for me would be a consistent pricing structure. I mean, I guess it's an issue that's come up a lot today, but if you can give me a final price instead of saying, well, if you do this, if you do that, if you walk into a meeting with a potential client already having that stuff figured out, like have options. Like if you want this one, it's gonna be this price per piece. If you want this other thing, it's gonna be that price per piece. And that's it. But so many times, there's just a lot of open-ended questions around pricing.
Okay, what everyone wants to know, panelists, is what have you learned the hard way?
Making it. I don't know who can relate on that, but I've learned the hard way that I suck at making it sometimes. So I can come up with 1 or 2 bottles, but when it comes to make 1 or 2,000 to fill 1 or 2 pallets, I go into 200 stores. That's something else. So I have struggled with working with a series of manufacturers. I've probably been to way more than I should, to make it and to scale it. How do you go from 1 to 1,000, from handmade to manufacturing? And that's a struggle that I'm still trying to learn. Right now I'm with the food incubator in Baton Rouge. It's a great place. Can anyone raise any hands of those who are working on a food product or some kind of food related? All right. So there's a few great resources. Right outside New Orleans, there's a place called Edible Enterprises. That's where I went. Well, after bribing food truck owners to use their truck on the weekends if I would wash their car. But, so it's for like 20 bucks an hour, you get access to this FDA-approved facility to mix and make whatever fruit product you want. And it's really great for that. Baton Rouge has something very similar, teamed up with the food incubator at LSU, where they have food scientists that can help you formulate a product that's, going to scale, that can be shelf stable, that, what about your nutritional facts or barcode and all that stuff? They help you kind of figure that out on top of just the commercial facility to mix and make. So it's a great resource. And we're still there, because it's always been our plan B, but that's one biggest struggle I have had to deal with, and that's the making part. So still trying to figure that part out.
Let's see, I learned everything the hard way. I feel like I did. I started my business in New Iberia, Louisiana. I don't know if anybody knows where that is, but not a whole lot of resources out there. It's a very male-dominated industry with oil field, and I had a sustainable diapering product. But I agree with making it. Thankfully, I have a sewn good. So I was able to sew in my home and sell one, and that turned into 2, 4, 8, 16, et cetera, et cetera. As I needed more done, I hired 2 or 3 different people to go to their houses and do piecemeal, that kind of thing. And then I always did what came next. And I think when you're starting off on a shoestring budget with no money, no funding, you have to start off that way and just figure out what's the next right thing to do. And I was constantly figuring out, and have been doing that for 15 years, figuring out the next right thing to do. Like right now, it's, well, okay, how do we find the target buyer? And thankfully, I'm at that phase, but I started off selling to one person, and like you have probably had a few too many manufacturers. I've been in Turkey, China, Mexico, the United States. I would love to get stuff made in New Orleans. Yeah, that would be great, but price-wise, I don't know if that's gonna happen. So yeah, I think learning the hard way is a good thing. I don't know if everybody has to. I wish I would have had a mentor or somebody that, some sort of resources. So I'm really glad things like this exist so that you can get a jump start and learn from others who've been there.
Don't give away samples for free to everyone that asks for them. Another one would be don't let your emotions or your excitement get in the middle of a sale to a big client. Layla Barker also mentioned that earlier, but somebody approached me and they wanted this custom thing done, and I was over the moon and oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And they were pretty difficult on pricing, and I kind of caved to them, totally didn't run the numbers and figure out how much money I would be making at the end. And midway through the project, I realized I was jumping through hoops for people, and I wasn't really making any money. So, like she said, just because anthropology comes knocking, don't bend over backwards. You have to make sure that the pricing is going to work for you, because almost every story I've heard of working with a client like that is they want a lot from you, and they don't promise you a lot, and they're going to make you work for it. So just because a big sale comes along, don't kind of like lose your head over the prestige of being associated with a big corporation. At the end of the day, it has to make you money. And exposure is great, but it's also not going to pay the bills.
No hard lessons?
No, I thought we were pressed for time. I would piggyback off of what just about everyone said in terms of I wouldn't say it's a hard lesson, but it's a growing pain, and you have to know when to step back from something when it comes to manufacturing. I formulate all my products, and we work with a lab as a scaling option to explore that. And it just really wasn't a good fit. The quality wasn't what I needed to be, and it wasn't consistent in terms of that turnaround time. And the same way that corporations can play hardball, you have a business, and you have a business to run, you have orders to fill, and you need to be able to play hardball to the people that you're holding accountable. In my situation, it wasn't really a hard process. It was a relationship that ended amicably, but it really wasn't good because they weren't able to fulfill on time. But then the way the product was being made, even though they had my formula and all my processes, it wasn't coming out matching what I was doing. And I had to be comfortable letting that go. And it was for me an intentional step to try to see if I wanted to have a lab make the product. And what I was able to come back to was like, no, I think I'd rather just have batching parties and be able to employ people locally to come and help me package products or label products. And, eventually there'll probably be somebody over that instead of me, being the person over it. But it was a good experience to have now before it was like, oh, I have this huge account and I need to fill these orders and, this lab is holding me up. So what I would say is if there are certain things that you're looking to explore in terms of scaling your business, try to do it now, like taking the one step after another. Try to do it now, whether it's finding out if you're plugged into Good Work Network or any of the other organizations that work with small businesses. Sometimes there are competitions, sometimes there are grants that are available, and you can try to alleviate the financial pressure that might add on you, because if you take on too much at the last minute, you could end up losing your business, and you have to kind of think ahead and try to plan for that and grow towards that.
So this question is directed towards all of you. I think you could all, spin it towards your unique experiences. But what have been your most successful partnerships and sales, and why do you think they were successful?
All right, so when I first got started, the big distributor around this area is AG, Associated Grocers. They go to places like Dornax, Langenstein's, Bromarts, a lot of these locally independently owned grocery stores, in which a lot of your big cities like Dallas and New York and San Francisco, they traditionally have Safeways and Kroger's, and these big, stale, boring companies are all franchise cities. Not in Louisiana, we're totally different. That's what I love about the state, for one. So it's filled with a lot of locally owned and operated stores. So what I did was I went out I found out that was one of the main distributors, and I went to the website to figure out the top 20 stores. And I went to those top 20 stores and harassed them. And I went in there with my basket smiling and asking for them to try my product and to give it a shot, and how we're locally made and it's natural and it's all good and here's some free stuff. Doing all the wrong things. But the point was, I made contacts and relationships with these first 20 stores, and then it started to move. And that was great. Then I started to reach out to newspapers, and we got into TV. We're in the local advocates, and NOLA.com, just kept trying to get as much media as possible. And at the time, our sales were doing great. We're in AG's top 20 stores. My minivan was bottomed out, dragging mufflers, because it was carrying so much product, and I was moving it all in myself. It was killing me. But that was a tipping point. So then I took that as leverage to our distributor, AG, and I said, hey, look, here's our sales in the last 3 months. The stuff is selling. What do I have to do to get in the warehouse? He said, nothing. Bring it in. To this day, it's the best deal I've ever made. And we negotiated great terms and great pricing because we had something that was hot. And I basically built excitement around it. If I'm just a regular guy, if I can do it, you can do it. So. But yeah, that's the best advice I can have, is to target a set of stores and to try to build as much hype as possible around those stores, and then use that as leverage to grow.
I think it's about finding the right relationship, also the right fit. So I've been doing, this will be my 5th year in November, and very early on, I received a lot of press, and so was receiving a lot of interest from some larger companies. One, for example, was Crate & Barrel. And at that time, I was actually hand making the ceramic birds. I've always worked with a soap maker for the soaps. It's our launch product. We now have many different products, but in Bird Project Soap's case, was approached by some larger corporations very early on. And I think that even though, my background is fully creative, and so I've never taken a business class, or, the numbers side has been the big learning side for me. I just realized that if I signed this contract with, say, Crate & Barrel, that I would be working for free. And, you know, I was hand making those, and it would take all of my time. And sure, they would be Crate and Barrel, and that sounds exciting. But I said no. And so a lot of people thought I was stupid or crazy or, you know, whatever. Who knows what have happened if I had said yes at that time. But I think it's about finding the right fit. So in my case, these are handmade, and they're made of very expensive ingredients. They're eco-friendly, they're made in the US, and they give back. So you have to find the right partner. So currently they're at West Elm Local, and that's a much smaller, you know, it's only in West Elm, New Orleans. They're gonna take them online this fall, which is very exciting, but I think it's just it's about timing and if you're prepared for it. And, you know, now I'm not hand making them myself, so I can work with someone else to do them. But if I had said yes back then, I think I would have just gone under. So I think it's about finding the right relationships. You know, a lot of the things that I sell them online, I sell them at markets, I sell them at a lot of boutiques. And so I realized that the larger corporations aren't the best fit for me. But West Elm is a good fit because they are focused on made in US, treating workers fairly. You know, it's a good symbiotic sort of relationship. So the same with your grocery stores, that was a great fit for your product. So looking at who's a good partner to go in, you know, to go into business with.
I agree with all that. I just wanted to add some like concrete ways to look for people that are going to be a good fit for you. I hope this story will make you guys feel better if you have had any experiences like this. But when my husband and I started, we were both doing it full time. We were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we were going to take our stuff on the road, and we were going to find all these stores in Atlanta and all over Georgia, and it was, I won't call it humiliating, but it was not a successful road trip because we walked in with our basket. In our case, it was a suitcase. And we were going to these high-end linen shops, and they were kind of like, who are you? Why are you in my store? Like, get your suitcase out of here. And that was a really interesting learning lesson. And anyway, we obviously have better working relationships with shops now, and it's all places that have sought us out. And I feel like that could be very frustrating advice to hear, like, well, how are people gonna find me? But if you just sort of keep your head down, like keep doing what you're doing, work on your stuff, make sure you have a good website, try and get local press, which is a lot easier than you would think. I mean, a lot of times it's just finding out like who the person at the Times-Picayune writes about what your stuff is and sending them an email. They want new content. You know, their job is to write about stuff that's going on in New Orleans, and that's you. I mean, you're doing them a favor by saying like, hey, I'm doing this cool thing. Would you like to write about it? I'm doing you a favor by giving you this story, you know? And that's gonna get you interest, but you always have the upper hand when somebody comes to you and is like, oh my gosh, you're doing something so great. I wanna carry it in my shop, tell me more. And so our most successful relationships are started with businesses that sought us out. They're independent, locally owned, everything that we were talking about this morning. I also asked them for a pretty high opening order because I wanted to make them invest in my brand and my story. And now they're all about it. It's one of the most exciting things they sell. They reorder from us all the time. I work with them. If I have a lot of inventory that I think would be a good fit for their store, I'm like, hey, I'll give you a deal if you take all of these off my hand. So I sort of work with them in that. And then on the flip side, some of my least successful relationships have been people that I was sort of doggedly pursuing, like I want to be in your shop, you need my stuff. And those partnerships just really never lasted because I was kind of hounding them, and from my perspective we were a good fit, but the person just never invested in our brand and that never took off. So finding people who are into what you're doing.
Continuing that, I think that's kind of what I do is I find women that I can invest in, women that are, you know, not just women, men too, but I look for people who are trying to invest in their own businesses, and she's been my most successful story. She was making very great, these amazing statement pieces, and they weren't selling as well as some of her smaller pieces. So over the past 3 years, I think we've tripled, quadrupled. I'm not sure, but yeah, she is my most successful story. I like for people to come to me.
She dropped me out kicking and screaming. I was
Yeah.
just making jewelry in my house, not knowing what to do with it, just
How'd you
letting
find
it pile up.
I found her at a craft market.
So you
Yeah.
accept unsolicited?
I like for people to come to me with baskets and smiles.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that. I was there, I was just being really quiet. But yeah, I actually do like that. That's the people that I'm looking for. I'm looking for people with baskets and smiles and wanting to go places. That's been my most successful stories. I'm sorry, guys.
What craft show was it?
Hers, actually, it was the Fret Market. Yeah, it was originally. I didn't talk to you the first time. I kind of stalk people. I'm a hot lead, I guess. A hot lead, is that what I am? So sometimes I find people, but I'm not usually looking for people who've already made it. Typically, I'm looking for people who are starting, because that's the exciting part to me, is watching somebody grow and growing with them. But yeah.
I'm going to echo everything everybody else said, but part of what helped Fuzzy Buns grow was the actual consumer. So not only were our small retailers that were all starting off, I feel like we all jumped off at the same time 15 years ago when Fuzzy Buns launched, and there was no modern cloth diapers. Fuzzy Buns was like the first one. So you had consumers that were really, really excited because now they had this really cool product, but then you had retailers that are now all stay-at-home moms, working from their homes mostly. And, we were all just very excited, and we helped grow this brand. But what I did was keep that loyalty of all those people that helped grow the brand. I never forgot them. I never went to Target. I mean, I was in Target, but, I didn't sell out to the big box stores and forget all of those smaller people. And I think that's really important to take into consideration. Because recently, talking about partnerships, these are all good stories. I have a very negative partnership story and I don't know if that pertains to the brand or not, but I licensed my brand to another company, and they did not do very well with it, and they fired all of those people that were selling the product for a long time. So because I had those really good relationships with those people, and they trusted me when I came back into the company, it was very, I say easy, it was not easy, but I was able to pick up the phone and say, hey, this is Terrace, and I'm back, and oh, thank God, we missed you so much, which was nice, but they've also taken the brand back, started selling it again. So, never forget your customers, never forget your retailers, and, know who kind of got you there.
Mine would be from the direct retail side of it. Leela was mentioning that summer for a lot of companies is a slow time, and those are the relationships, your regular customers, or sometimes the customers that actually pull you through during the slower times. I want to add to my schedule. Some tangible ways that you can do that. For example, this month, I actually called a few of my clients and I said, expect a box in August, but I need to stop doing that because I'm not good with shipping stuff like that on time. Just practical things, handwritten cards. I collect stationery. I'm trying not to, but if I'm in TJ Maxx, if I'm out at a craft fair and I see cards that I like, I get them and I send handwritten cards with no strings attached, no coupon or anything, just, hey, thank you for your support. And I'll do that several times a year. This year I'm doing something different. We're in our 8th year, and I'm sending gifts of gratitude, or gratitude gifts, and I always come up with terms for stuff, and when I describe it, they're like, what are you talking about? And for me, that's for some of my longtime clients that order from me regularly. When they have, if their brother is getting married, they'll want me to send a gift to their, sister-in-law to be. I'm sending gifts like that, and like this year, we're in New Orleans. It's a well-recognized place. If you ship a lot online, most of my business is not in New Orleans. I ship, away a lot. So I'm sending them a gift package, and it's going to have a locally preserved jar of product. It's gonna have Zapp's, chips, the sweet Creole one. It's gonna have it's not gonna have any salad dressing. I mean, I just found out, and I actually topped my budget. So, and it's gonna have just some local New Orleans, shameless promotion. It's gonna have just a local New Orleans theme with a cart, and then one of their favorite products that they offer all the time. And that's something that I set a budget for it, and I'm sending it out to those handful of people. But even the budget that I set for it, it's a fraction of what they spent with me over the years. So those are ways that you can just, show gratitude and just do things that are practical. Just start with a handwritten card, a thank you card, so.
Thank you. But I have more questions, but do any of you have questions before I ask another question?
We'll just keep going.
Okay, yes.
In reference to food, I hear that the markup for a grocery store is less than like if I were to go into, if I was selling a shirt and, it'd be 50%. That grocery store is really gonna mark it doesn't go like with that ratio, so how do you set your prices?
So I typically figure about like 70% or so. I always try to get the most of the percentage, but it's not always the case. With our bigger volume stores, we obviously get less than with our lower volume stores. So about 70%. So you want to see, one, is your product on the shelf comparable with your competitors? Are you too high, too low? With Craig or Jeff was saying earlier, what's your strategy kind of with the branding? Is the price match? And then after the price matches and it looks good on the shelf, it's like you kind of have to reverse engineer it to make sure that you can make a profit on doing it. And I like to say about 30%. I like to say around 35%. A distributor takes around 20%. And then sometimes there's brokers in there, they'll take 5 to 10% in there as well. There's always someone trying to get more piece of the pie. It's food business.
So you get 70.
I shoot for 70 from my cost to make to my end user, which is the customer, is about 70%, but I typically don't ever see that. I typically go to the hard way, which is the distributors that ship it to the grocery stores as my primary customer. So.
Angie, do you still host crappy nights, and how can you get on that list?
I have actually.
Does she still have craft nights?
I do still have some craft nights, but I'm actually opening a space right across the street at 1612 where I'm hoping to be doing a lot of that in the neighborhood.
Great.
And I know that there's been a lot of gentrification going on throughout the city, so my object there is to unify instead of gentrify and somehow bring the whole neighborhood together. This is a perfect neighborhood for it. And I live in this neighborhood too. So so I'll let everybody know soon. It's also going to serve as an extension to me in a way, so that I can have a place for some of my artists to also have more curated cultural shows. Yeah.
How do you spell the names of your business?
Miette. Miette is Miette. It's actually a Cajun French word for little sister or niece. Nobody used it. I couldn't believe it. I'm so happy. I've been using it for over 10 years, and I was like, oh, I know this is going to be gone. It's going to be used somewhere. No, thankfully. But they did open a place. So secure your names as soon as you think of them. Secure your names online because they opened a bakery in San Francisco. That's amazing, actually. That's called Miette as well.
And also, one of our sponsors, directnick.com, can help you secure your name if that's something that you're interested in. directnick.com. They're on the board back there. Okay. So I'm going to assume you guys are organized and ask you, how do you stay organized? And do you use software to manage the back end of your business? Or so what keeps you sane? Please give us some practical tools. Please. Okay.
I'm a work in progress. I have a huge stack of papers if you have any teenagers that need some extra money. One thing that has helped me is Dropbox. I have a Mac and I have a PC, and sometimes I go back and forth between the two. But Dropbox has helped me because if something, God forbid, happens to that Mac, which my previous Mac just exploded out of nowhere, that I may like lose one or two things on there, but everything else is backed up. You know, I guess the need of my business is backed up. So the other thing, well, no, that's not tools for running. Never mind.
We actually pay a little bit extra every month to have more space on Dropbox.
Well, yes, there's a free one, but I've been with Dropbox for so long, so remember it was free, and then I upgraded,
Okay.
and then I think they give you way more space now. I don't know if I'll ever use that amount of space. So, I mean, there are some things that it's worth investing in, rather than just being like, oh, I'm just gonna keep everything here, and if something happens, you know, while you may need to go and locate the files in Dropbox, at least you'll have them, versus like, oh my gosh, how did I make this thing? Or, you know, who pays my invoices and who did it, you know, so, yeah.
Well, I don't know if sane is a word that I can actually use. My company is completely virtual, so I'm here, my VP of Sales and Marketing is in Napa, my customer service is in Maine, my IT person is in Morocco, and I think I have somewhere in Atlanta, somewhere. So we have to use technology to keep us somewhat organized. My bookkeeper, she's in Lafayette, I forgot about her, she's kind of important. You know, we run the business on QuickBooks in the cloud, so I can see and she can see, and we're both on the same page. But for the most part, we use Skype a lot. You know, I can back and forth with whomever. We can get on group calls, and we use Box.net for all of our files. So, you know, those are kept in a nice, somewhat organized fashion. Depends on who's organizing them. If it's me, it's probably not too organized. That's actually a challenge for me, is organizational skills. I have ADD really, really bad, but most inventors do. And I think that's about it. I mean, technology is great.
Yeah, and it's a tool. Second to QuickBooks Online, I think everyone here should download that and try it out. It is a great piece of software. They did like a total refresh about 3 years ago. I was panicking like an unorganized person. I am trying to find the best way to figure out my sales and invoices and clients and customers and payments and who owes me what and what terms do they have and what terms does that person have and what's the pricing. It's a lot easier in QuickBooks, and it's all there, and CPAs love it, and that's what's important, is making money, making sure you get the profit. So QuickBooks Online is great. It's cheap, it really is. I don't know if mine's cheap, but we have like every feature they make, so they're kicking my butt, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. Second is Evernote. Are y'all familiar with Evernote? I love it. I constantly put down thoughts, ideas when I see something, when I'm working on a project. I tag them when I'm concepting stories for the packaging, or I see something cool in the grocery store, I'll take a shot of. And the cool thing is, whenever you write on napkins or on whatever you're finding at the time, you can take a shot of it, upload it to Evernote, and it'll recognize your writing within the napkin. So if you're like, so-and-so had a great idea about this, that, and the other, we had a meeting, and we were at a bar in the French Quarter, and I told them $5 a bottle or something like that. You can take a shot of that, it's an Evernote, and you can search it 10 years from now. It's really great. Another piece of software, we're kind of virtual as well, we have people all over, is Basecamp. Basecamp is our office in the cloud. So we have our projects, we have our tasks, our to-dos. You know, we're about to come out with a new plant-based ranch that's unlike anything else on this planet. How do you do that? Well, there are so many steps on doing that. You know, I know where we are and where we need to be, and we basically list out every single step on Earth to get there, and then talk about those steps one by one and just check them off and go down, assign tasks to people, you know, in marketing and trying to figure out what's next. And the last piece, which is very, very low tech, but I found it helped me tremendously as a tool in my company, and that's a pen and a pad in the morning. Don't check email. Grab a pen and a pad and write down the top 3 to 5 things that you need to do today, no matter what. If you've only got 2 things done, you can just sign off and say, you know what, today was a good day. So, because typically we'll get caught up in the chaotic email and the phone calls and everything else. But if you just write down those 3 to 5 things in the morning, write down a priority, which is first, second, third, fourth, how long is each of these going to take me, and just only do that first. I find that to be the most effective thing of growing the company.
I'm about to become a spokesperson for Google. I use Google Drive for everything, really, almost. I make all my artists use it. There's Excel, there's basically Word. There's Keep, which works like Evernote, but not everybody has Evernote, so I can't share. But everybody has Gmail.
Yeah.
Everybody has Gmail. Another thing that I use is Facebook groups. I make private groups with, I have a coffee shop and I have a boutique, and I used to have to send out 1 million text messages if I had one update that I had to go out. So that was not fun. So I started making groups for each business and, well, for everything. I have probably 20 groups, which might seem unmanageable, but it's really great because the notification comes and you go directly to whatever was posted, and you stay on top of everything in your business with everyone in your business. But between Facebook and Google products, I don't really stray away from anything else, just because everybody has those things. I did used to use QuickBooks, but no, I just let the accountant do all that stuff
Right.
and go over that with them. But as far as communications go, it's Google Keep, Google Drive, Google Slides, Excel. It's all in there, and you have access to it from anywhere you are, everywhere. It's on my phone, it's on my iPad, in my purse. It's on any of the iPad registers at any of my businesses. So if somebody says they didn't see something, they weren't looking at all. But yeah, it makes it really easy to also with the Excel sheets to make line sheets for, to share with your vendors or with your, whoever you're working with. It's always there.
I'm taking suggestions for organization. I'm a total mess. I have like 17 notepads. People are like, I saw you write that down, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I very recently discovered that when you text message someone and it has a day and a time and it's underlined, do you know when you text somebody, you can click on it and then add an appointment to your calendar, which my friends were like, are you the last person on earth to know that? It's awesome, because then it will remind you that you have something to do. So, that's the one thing that I use, and then I have 17 appointment books, so good luck with that.
We're lucky she's here today.
I have a few different sort of, I'm not hyper organized, but it's something that I learned over the past couple of years. So there's a favorite app that I use. It's called To Do, spelled in a New Orleans sort of way. It's by the designer Swiss Miss. If you're familiar with the Tatley tattoos, this is another of her products. So it's an attractive, as a designer and a design snob, then I appreciate things that look nice. So it's TEUX, and it's sort of a rolling to-do list. And so if you click it off, then it stays off, but if you don't do it, then it rolls over to the next day, which I really like, because before I was just using pieces of paper, and then you have to consolidate your notes from one page to the other page. And so the To-Do app has really made a big difference in my to-do lists. And it has a web version and a phone version, so it updates between the two. And I think it costs maybe $3 a year, so it's inexpensive. So that's a fave. I also use the Google Docs, QuickBooks Online for bookkeeping. What else? There was another one. Maybe it'll come to me later. But the To-Do is definitely a fave. And you can also, so the thing is that at the top it has the days of the week, and then you can put down below, you can name it whatever you want, but I kind of use those as like little parking lots of things that I have to do, but I'm not going to do this week, or maybe not even next week, but it just sort of keeps it there so it doesn't disappear into the ether.
I have one more to add, Doodle. I've been using Doodle a lot for meetings because everybody I meet with, including myself, is just busy all the time. So Doodle's made my life a lot easier with meeting with everyone. You just click off, you know, when you're available, and then it sets the meeting up for you.
Are you guys familiar with Doodle? It's really nice. Send out to a group of people. You can choose what times work best for you. And it consolidates that, so you get a good meeting.
Yeah.
Doodle, D-O-O-D-L-E.
I would add one thing. It's not necessarily organization, but since you touched on Google products, Google Voice is really good if you have international calls to make. I have a few clients in different parts of Canada, Europe, and the Caribbean, and so sometimes they'll call me with an order. So it's always nice to be able to be like, okay, well, let me get it in. I'll call you right back, and not have them have to, you know, pay the high fees to stay on the line.
I have more questions, but does anyone in the audience have a burning question? No? Oh, 5 more minutes? Okay. Okay, well, fine. Since I only have 5 more minutes, I can keep you guys here all day. All right. Let's get touchy-feely here. What keeps you motivated or who inspires you?
Can I answer a different question?
Yes.
No, I have one more burning thing to share that I feel like it took me a long time to realize this. Oh, I'm just loud. So it took me a long time to realize this, but I just can't echo what the gentleman from line 15 was saying about presentation. You know, when I started the business, I was so jazzed about the product that I was selling and so passionate about my story and just could talk to you for days about how great the thing that I was selling was. And having some success, but not the success that I wanted to have with my audience. And it wasn't until I started really working with graphic designers and investing in branding that I got the presentation to match my product. And, you know, I like to say that depending on who you're talking to and who your customer is, your product could be maybe like anywhere from 40% to 70% the reason they actually buy it from you, and the other percentage is your presentation and how easy, you know, how easy it is to order from you. So I just want to really hit that point home, that the thing that you could be making could be the most incredible thing in the whole world, and if they would just take it home and use it, you know that they would love it as much as you do. But if the look, and that's logo, that's your website, that's any paper materials that go along with what you have, if those don't match your product, you're not going to convert customers into little disciples of your brand. So that is the hardest lesson, and it's kind of like an esoteric one, but that is the advice that I would like to give to you, and hopefully save you a little bit of wheels spinning.
I would say never, ever forget how happy your product makes everybody, because that's the thing that keeps me inspired every day. At my coffee shop, I get to watch people wake up and enjoy, you know, some of the best coffee in the city, and that makes, you know, seeing them come back up to the counter or take pictures of their drinks, you know, and posting them, that makes me, that's better than money to me. At the boutique, you know, seeing the artists grow, watching them, you know, get their jewelry or products with celebrities, and then they get this big boom, those kinds of things definitely keep me inspired. So I would say never, no matter how much you make something over and over and over and over, never forget how happy it's making somebody, and that'll make you feel a little bit better about making it over and over and over for a while.
I completely agree with that. I like to leave an off-topic question as well.
Sure.
She started it. So 3 books that will change your life. I like to read a lot, and I find that I have found that these have been the most impactful in my company. One, Marketing, Made to Stick by Chip and something Heath. I forgot the other guy's name, but Made to Stick. And it basically teaches you kind of what Jeff with branding was saying. It's what's your strategy, what's your point, what's your angle, and it's just filled with resources, tips, tools, and techniques. It's really great. Another one, which is what we all were talking about earlier, and that is, you know, you have to have a great product too. Like there's too many good things on the shelf. Yours has to be great. And if it is great and remarkable and revolutionary, it will continue to sell. And the very best book on that is The Purple Cow by Seth Godin. Remarkable writer, short read, you can probably keep in the bathroom, you know, and knock it out soon. So number 3 is, well, in the food, I guess yeah, I got 2 more, so sorry. We'll go with Cooking Up a Business for you food guys, or it's a great, I guess, read for anyone, but Cooking Up a Business is a collection of stories from food entrepreneurs about how they got started, their struggles, you know, and how they grew and how they handled the sales and the ups and downs. Great resource to have. But the last one is the E-Myth Revisited. I think we can all relate on that. And the idea, the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And the idea behind that is simply, at the beginning, everyone works in their business. They work on it, in it, all day long, you know, 24/7. You're always working in it to make it work. Over time, you need to develop policies and procedures where you can take a step back, hire a staff, and work on it. Those are 2 big different things. You know, at the beginning, you work in it. In the future, you work on it. And that's the leap that you need to make to scale a company. So that's all. One other last thing, it's my personal motto. There's some green bands in the back that say, do what's worth doing. I would like to leave that with everyone here today. And that's my philosophy. That's kind of how I started this company, my own little motto, and that's simply that, do what's worth doing. So.
They're on the table in the back. Any other closing remarks?
So basically for me, I started St. Nika because of my struggles with eczema and dermatitis. I know how cost effective, or not necessarily cost effective, but how expensive it can be to constantly go to a doctor to get all these prescriptions that actually end up making matters worse. Like, it might cure one thing, but like kill you in the end. And so for me, that's the thing that keeps me going when I have a mom that has a baby with diaper rash or that has eczema that can use the products on her. She can use it on her entire family. And not only does it work, but they have head-to-toe products that also make them feel good about who they are. And that's the thing that, you know, keeps me inspired, just being able to help people.
I think one of the things that inspires me to keep going is, one, the desire not to be broke. You know, I have a unique story in that I have built something really, really successful and have seen that success fail and had to live through that, but I've also been granted the opportunity to rebuild that, which did fail once, and take all the experiences that I had over 12, 13 years and apply them to this new company, and same brand, but new company, and to make sure that it does not, I don't make the same mistakes that I made before. And I think that's a huge gift that I've been given. I don't think a lot of people get a second chance to make something successful. So, you know, part of what I do is mentorship, and that's what does it for me. I mean, I love what I do. I love my product. I love the fact that it's helping people and parents and babies and retailers and moms and all this good stuff. But I also get a huge charge out of helping other people that were in my situation. If I can divert them from spending $12,000 on a website, which is insane, then, you know, that makes me feel good. Just steering people in the right direction, connecting them with, you know, people that can help them. So giving back to me is why I do what I do at Idea Village. You know, they do pay me, but it's basically volunteer work. You know, just that keeps me going.
Maybe we'll have the closing remarks.
I'll try and make it spectacular. I mean, the things that inspire me, I think, are, you know, starting this company is an effort for me designed for good. So I've had a lot of jobs where I've designed things that I didn't care about, and, you know, I realized it didn't really change the world in one way or another. So that for me is an inspiration, and I hope that I can keep it going and grow the business, and we'll keep on getting to do that. But I think that the point that I would like to leave is that I think that the thing, I mean, you have to have fun, you have to enjoy what you're doing, you have to be passionate about it because you're willing to, you know, work millions of hours, make far less money, and, you know, when you're starting out. And you have to be able to let the failures brush off your shoulder. You know, I mean, I think that, I don't know what the percentage of successes versus failures I've had, but I don't remember the failures. You know, like, you learn from them and you move on. So I think that's the that's the thing that has to keep you going, is that you just have to keep focused and working towards the goal, towards the dream, and whatever the failures are, appreciate them for the learning thing, but don't let them knock you down. Like if you feel bad about it, like feel bad about it for 20 minutes, but don't let it stay with you for the whole week.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say failure is feedback.
Oh, he doesn't need the microphone. Wait, failure is feedback. Okay, I like that. Well, thank you, panelists, for your time. This was wonderful. Meredith's going to do some closing remarks. Okay.
I just want to thank y'all for coming and hanging in there to the end. I hope you found every minute of this valuable. Once again, I want to thank all our sponsors, LCIA, LCI Workers Comp, DirectNIC, and Gulf Coast Bank. And I just was informed by Jeff before he left, he'll have a review of his presentation up on their blog next week. So if you want to, any of those questions, you want to like reflect back on them later. Thanks to all our speakers and all our panelists, and thanks to everyone for coming. I charge you, since we're doing this Makers Expo Buyers Market in the spring, to take what Leela's given you, take what you've learned here today, and really try to apply it. So when we have those retailers walking down those aisles of your booth, you can have that sale and you can have that moment. So let that be your inspiration. There is a deadline. I know how procrastination works. So in the spring, sometime maybe March, we also procrastinate on setting a date. So everyone keep that on your radar, and I want to thank you for attending again. And also, if you want to learn more about Stay Local or Good Work Network, talk to me or Charlotte or Kim, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.